With this recent news that Jim Harbaugh would be leaving Michigan to be the coach of the LA Chargers, it's left the Michigan Wolverines with a decision to make. Now, it's not one that they can make incredibly quickly due to rules around the opening at head coach. The job has to be posted for 7 days. It's a very diplomatic process. But all signs point towards what Michigan will do here. I want to get your thoughts. I want to share you some thoughts that I've got on this as well. But first off, hats off to Jim Harbaugh. We talked about this yesterday, and I think Jim Harbaugh delayed this enough to honestly help Michigan. And I think it's something that should be commended, no matter what you think about Jim Harbaugh, the controversy surrounding him or Michigan or whatever. I think he put his alma mater, he put his university in the best possible situation, and that's something that will ultimately help them down the road. Now, reports have already surfaced that Sherrone Moore, Chris Ballas of the Wolverines, has reported that he will likely be the next head coach at the University of Michigan. There are other potential candidates that are in play, but everything seems focused on Moore. Obviously, Moore being the coach who took over for Harbaugh in the games that he was not able to coach this year due to either self-imposed or penalties by the Big Ten. Moore is somebody who I want to talk about a little bit, but first, Michigan fans, I want to hear from you. Do you like this? Do you wish it was somebody else? Is it a Brian Kelly, a Drinkowitz? Is there somebody else out there that you would prefer that's been mentioned with this job over Moore? Or do you like what Moore did this year and think that he deserves to be given the chance? More so than that, just being given the chance, do you believe that he is the one that can truly lead Michigan? I think that earning a spot and actually being able to carry on what Harbaugh has done are two different things. Now, before I get into it, I do want Michigan fans to know that at the end of the video, and I want you to stick around, I will give you some positives here, but I'm going to try and keep it pretty real with this hire. I think ultimately this hire is being made for two reasons. One, continuity, just keeping things consistent. And I think there's a level of that you can understand and respect. And you can say, hey, I get it. I understand why they're doing this. The other side of this, though, I think this could be being done because Michigan knows that it is going to get hit with some sanctions. I don't know that it's going to be level 1 stuff. I don't know that it's going to be super drastic NCAA penalties, but I do believe that something is coming. And so is there an aspect of Michigan that wants to not go out and make a big-time, massive splash hire, knowing that they'd be bringing that coach in facing whatever Michigan's going to face for the transgressions that may be facing them or that they may have committed in the past? The NCAA certainly, whether you agree with them or not or like Michigan or not, is coming for Michigan, and I think everyone knows that there will be some kind of penalty coming. And does that make it harder for Michigan to hire? Is it easier to just let Moore stay in the role and elevate him, and then once penalties hit, if Michigan falls back a little bit, you can then go out and make a splash hire later if Moore doesn't work out? I think they really could have been better off looking outside, trying to find a bigger name, trying to find somebody that can come in. But I understand the consistency aspect. I understand the sanction or the penalty aspect that's coming as well. You saw what happened with Alabama and Washington with their teams getting absolutely gutted when their coaches left, playoff coaches left. And maybe that would happen to Michigan as well. But you'd think a new coach, whether that be Brian Kelly or whomever, could come in and replace a lot of that talent. A guy who has coached in the Midwest, a guy who has been very successful recruiting and portaling at Louisiana State. Maybe that should have been the way that the team should have gone. Now, it's not finalized. Moore has not signed a contract or anything. But I think if this happens, this is a win for other teams in the Big Ten. I think this is a win for Ohio State, who is absolutely reloading this year. I think this is a win for Oregon and Washington and other teams that are going to compete year in and year out in the Big Ten. I don't know that I believe that Moore is the guy that can lead Michigan on. I don't know that I believe that Moore is the guy who can keep Michigan at the level that it's been churning at. I understand they went 6-0 when he was coaching. I get that. But I think that's different, right? Harbaugh was still around. He was still there. He was still leading everything through the week. And Michigan was so much more talented than the other teams they played outside of the Ohio State game that I really don't know that it made too big of a difference, him being gone. I think this is a win for Ohio State. I think this is a win for some of the major teams, Penn State and others in the conference, because I don't think that Michigan can continue at the level of success that they've had under Harbaugh. I don't believe that Moore is that guy. And that's not a slam on him. I know Michigan fans are not going to like to hear that. It's just my take. If you think I'm wrong or you wanted Moore as your coach, I mean, feel free to let me know. But if you wanted somebody else, then sounds like your thoughts are basically the same as mine. Now, what's the positive of this? Well, again, we talked about the continuity. We talked about the idea that you're probably going to keep your roster together better because of elevating Moore. That's a positive. You're also going to help. It also helps what we mentioned yesterday in the beginning of this video, that Harbaugh delayed this announcement until now so that most other places school had already started and kids won't bolt for the portal. As of the video, we haven't seen anyone bolt for the portal just yet. You also may benefit from what I've seen some people talk about, and that's the bunker mentality. The idea that Moore was here during whatever went on and will be here after to kind of get the team to hunker down and rally around whatever the NCAA does. I can't imagine that another coach in the country would be able to get them to bunker down and have the us against the world mentality quite like Moore will. It's kind of what I expect out of Florida State this year. I expect Florida State, who feels like they got snubbed, whether you agree with that or disagree with that, I expect them to have an us against the world mentality. Hey, they didn't believe in us enough to get to the playoff. They didn't believe in all of our players minus Jordan Travis. They didn't believe in who we are. We're going to go out and light the world on fire because of it. That would be a lot harder to do had Mike Norvell taken another job, whether going to Alabama or wherever. But because Mike Norvell is back, I think Florida State will do that. I think the same thing could be true for Michigan. Moore allows them the opportunity to keep it in the family, to keep it us against the world. A new coach is going to try and distance himself from whatever the NCAA throws at Michigan. And if I'm wrong on this, and everything does work out, these positives seem to work, and Moore can keep them in the top 10 and winning 10 games a year and recruiting at a top 10 level, I'm happy to eat the crow. I'm happy to reshare this video and play clips of it and say I was dead wrong. I don't think that happens. I do think that they'll probably be hiring again within the next 4 or 5 years. I don't know that Moore is the guy to keep things rolling there. I like him. I think there's a lot to like about him. I think there's some positives from doing this. I just don't know that they outweigh what Michigan could have potentially done. Again, I'll eat all the crow, though, Michigan fans, if I'm wrong on this. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Again, I want to hear, do you want more? What do you like about him? What other coaches were you wanting? Were you wanting to look at? Were you wanting Michigan to maybe explore more than Sherrone? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. We talked a ton about Harbaugh yesterday. If you missed that, I'll link it on the screen right now. You can click on it and check it out. Subscribe to the channel. We'll do a ton of college football content almost daily, several times a week on this channel, College Football Addiction.